Well, first, I mean, the overarching theme is that you can learn so much about living and how to live through watching somebody die. And I thought about it when I was a teenager and all the way until he actually had Alzheimer's. So all of those years, decades, my father was terrified of death. And he would tell me that if anything ever happened to him that compromised his mental faculties, in his words, he said, if I become a vegetable, make sure they disconnect anything I might be connected to. I don't want to live a life like that. And as a teenager, of course, as his daughter, your parents telling you this, I'm thinking, first of all, I'm thinking about my own mortality, right? And I also then became afraid of death, right? Because if you're seeing somebody that you look up to that should have all the answers, especially when you're a child, is telling you this, you're like, oh no, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. And there's no, it's to be feared, which is crazy because it's unavoidable. And also, you spend then so much time in your life fearing death instead of actually living fully. And so that's the irony here, right?
It's interesting. One of my favorite verses is from Ecclesiastes. It says, better to go to the house of a mourner than the house of a party, because then the living will put in their heart. And the idea is that, and I find, throughout life, I find
the living will
sort of really look inside, right? Take lessons, right? And that's really we know that everything that exists has very important purpose, and death exists for the most part to teach the living.
Well, also it's such a, there are ways, and we've talked about this recently, but to die in a way that's almost as beautiful as watching a baby be born in the world. And it becomes so clear. And I really want to give tips today on how to be able to see it that way, that death is a natural and can even be a beautiful part of life, but it depends on how you live it. And there's this quote by Giovanni Falcone, and he said, he who doesn't fear death dies only once. Because if you're afraid of death, you die over and over again while you're still alive.
And there's actually interesting, there's quite a lot of books, scholarship on this. And the reality is that most people who die are not afraid to die. It's the living who are afraid to die, but the dying are not afraid to die.